Well, hello and welcome to the Thursday trade right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Sorry, we kicked off late. I know the market waits for no man at this point, but let's get to the top stories that set you up for those gains today. In a major leadership shakeup, Access Holdings PLC has announced the appointment of Innocent Ike as its new Group Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, effective August 29, 2025. This move follows the return of Igboje Aigimokade as chairman as part of a broader corporate restructuring to strengthen governance and comply with new Central Bank of Nigeria regulations. I will see Saike, who brings over 30 years of banking experience to the role, succeeds Bolaji Agbede, who served as acting GMD CEO for 18 months. Without return to her previous position. And definitely, I'll be keeping an eye on the Access holding stocks for investor reaction. That's later on today, and we'll definitely bring you what's playing out there. Let's get a check on oil prices now. We see prices fell today after rising in the previous session as investors, they win expectations of lower U.S. fuel demand with the end of the summer demand season nearing, and weighted India's response to punitive U.S. tariffs. Brent crude futures, we see that drop by 0.72% at $67.56 a barrel. We see WTI, that's trading down 0.78%, still below that $64 level a barrel. Both contracts climbed in the prior session after the U.S. Energy Information Administration reported that U.S. crude inventories fell by 2.4 million barrels in the week ended August 22nd, compared with analyst expectations in a Reuters poll for about 1.9 million barrel draw. And to other stories now, amid a rising energy cost, Nigerians spent about 1.3 trillion naira on buying premium motor spirit to power their vehicles and electricity generators in June, as consumption across the country reached 1.44 billion liters. And that's according to latest data from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Nigerians consume more petrol than any other fuel, and as a nation battling unreliable power supply, a larger percentage of the population depends on petrol for self-generation. Then the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Dr. Momotimi Agama, has projected that Nigeria's capital market is on course to hit 300 trillion naira in capitalization by the end of 2025. Mr. Agama made this known in Brazil during a meeting with President Bola Tinubu alongside the board of the Nigerian Exchange Group, that's the NGX. He says the growth outlook reflects rising investor confidence, ongoing reforms, and government's strong commitment to market-driven economic development. According to the SEC DG, the anticipated expansion will be driven by increased listings, stronger regulatory oversight, and deeper participation by both domestic and foreign investors. And to some earnings news now. Consolidated Hallmark Holdings PLC announced a 404% leap in profit before tax from 4.7 billion naira in 2023 to 23.2 billion, while the total profit attributable to stakeholders for the 2024 financial year stood at 22.58 billion, up from 3.8 billion in 2023. The positive performance of the holdco was disclosed at its second annual general meeting. The company also recorded 117% growth in total assets in 2024, despite navigating a challenging economic environment. Total assets increased to 28.2 billion naira in 2023 to 56 billion in 2024. Insurance revenue also saw a substantial rise, climbing to 29.42 billion naira in 2024 from 15.7 billion in 2023. And more efforts to accelerate intra-Africa trade, this time through the West Africa Industrialization, Manufacturing and Trade Summit and Exhibition 2025. See, the Minister of State Industry, Senator John Eno, was in Lagos to meet journalists on the summit. He believes that it is a platform for creating partnerships among Africans. Take a listen.
The Ministry of State Industry believes that the message of industrializing Nigeria would be accelerated if the conversation is pushed to the West African region level.
These are challenges.
Consequently, the minister, Senator John Eno, is working with the private sector to organize the West Africa Industrialization, Manufacturing and Trade Summit and Exhibition.
It is just so important that this conversation should hold. It is in itself, it continues to demonstrate the importance of industry. We will never be tired of talking about it. The more we talk about it, the more it resonates, and the more it's important that both government, the public, the private, our donor agencies and all of that are in the same place. So this conference brings together all of these in one place. And in itself, it's going to help create some kind of scaling opportunities for our MSMEs, that are so big, so plenty, occupy so much space, in terms of job provision and all of that.
The ministry is working directly with Energy for DMG Nigeria events.
We focus on West Africa specifically because of the opportunities West Africa offers, as well as the challenges that exist in this region. Our population currently is 490 million people. We have estimates that this will double, almost double by 2050. So with this sort of population, it is an opportunity to look at the human capital resources we have and how do we maximize this. Again, natural resources are abundant in our part of the world.
The minister promises that the events, which will be held in Lagos, will unite the industrialization ecosystem in West Africa.
All right, so our first conversation now. See, the Central Bank of Nigeria has issued a new directive mandating all licensed payment operators to geotag over 4 million point-of-sale terminals within 60 days. The move was announced August 26, 2025, and requires all new and existing terminals to have native GPS capabilities and be registered with a payment terminal service aggregator. Well, join me now to unpack all of this. We have Dr. Obio Haoti, is the Acting National President, Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria. Good morning, Dr. Haoti. Great to have you on the show.
Good morning, Ladi.
Yes.
Thank you for having me once again.
Fantastic. So, yeah, well, we're seeing the CBN active again, sending out some of those directives. And yes, I guess the POS guys need to work on this one now. So, talk to me about the primary technical and logistical challenges that operators like likes of OPay, Money Point, PalmPay, what would they face? Geo-tagging 4.2 million terminals within 60 days. But before you answer that, talk to us about what geo-tagging is.
Okay. Yeah, we received that circular on the 26th. I think the circular was out on the 25th, 2 days ago. So before that time, we have always known that such a circular is going to come out. So we were not surprised, and I believe many financial institutions have been preparing for this. Okay, so basically in a layman's understanding, geotagging means to pin a POS on a specific spot on the map. Now, let me be a bit technical. Now, if you want to geotag a POS, you need to identify the particular place that POS is within the map. You get the longitude and the latitude, and with all these coordinates, you now have to specifically pinpoint where that POS is. So when you are talking of geotagging, you equally talk of geofencing, because the essence of the geotagging a POS is actually to make it comply with a particular geofencing policy. So in this case, now the CBN is saying that no POS is expected to work outside 10 meters of the radius of the particular registered address of that POS. So that's basically what the policy is all about.
So definitely, with geotagging, let's imagine I'm a POS operator. Once I register my POS in a particular location, if I leave that location, what happens?
if you leave that location, technically about 10 meters outside that location, the POS will be deactivated. It's not going to work within that time that you are outside the particular location where the POS is specifically geotagged.
All right, so
for instance now,
okay, yeah, go on.
For instance, I register a POS as an agent in Lekki, for instance, in Lagos, and I decide to come towards your office with that POS. Immediately as I walk away from that radius where the POS is specifically geotagged, it will no longer work.
All right, so they have to, most of the operators now, they have to geotag about 4.2 million terminals. Is this going to be difficult, or it's not going to be a problem?
In fact, the figure you have mentioned is correct to some extent, but that's not exactly what is there in the market. We have almost about 10 million POS that is out there. It's just that you have about half of it that is active. So whether the POS is active right now or maybe is going to be active later, it has to be geotagged for it to comply with the CBN directive. So operators are going to be grappling with not just 4.2 million POS, but much, much more than that number.
So how would this, directive impact, business operations of POS agents, particularly those who are, mobile or, operate across multiple, locations?
Okay. When this circular came around, I think yesterday we deliberated on it, so many of us that are stakeholders within the industry. It is a welcome idea because there have been so many issues that we are grappling. Remember, sometime early this year, the House of Representatives raised an alarm about unregistered and unverified POS and other associated challenges. From time to time, we that are players at the grassroots, we usually encounter a lot of challenges like fraud, like kidnappers trying to cash out through the POS, and so many things like that. So geotagging is definitely going to help to reduce fraud and also curb criminality. However, let me stress this. The challenge you have in the industry, especially in Nigeria, is that when a good idea comes up like a policy, the implementation is usually what spoils it. Why I'm saying this is because I think the idea to geotag POS and some other payment terminals is okay, but to give a marching order that this must happen within a 60-day window, I have a problem with that. Remember, we just came out of the Naira redesign brouhaha that happened and put everybody into confusion. So now, the agency banking started many years ago, let's say from 2013 to now. We've been around for quite a while now. So POS have not mandatorily been geotagged. So I don't see the reason for the speed and urgency. I think the central bank is on the right path. However, they have to really give some kind of time frame for this to be achieved without necessarily causing unnecessary disruption within the market. Now, why am I saying this? In order to comply with this directive, it's not just saying that you have to do maybe fix a particular device or activate a particular software on a POS for it to comply. Now, the minimum standard for a POS to comply with this directive is Android version 10, okay? And many of, at least over 40% of the POS out there is not Android. So what it means that many of these POS have to be withdrawn from the system and replaced with a compliant version that will comply with the geotagging policy of the central bank. And this involves a lot of resources. Remember, many of these mobile money operators, especially the newly registered ones, are struggling to gain their market share and to even break even. So now there is need for them now to pump in resources in order to be able to comply with this provision of the policy. Again, even the established ones like maybe Money Point and OPay, they have quite a huge number of POS out there. And they either have to withdraw those ones that don't have the capacity to comply with this directive, or they have to update the software on them for those ones that have the capacity, like those ones that are up to Android version 10. So this activity is not just something that can happen in a twinkling of an eye. It's not something that will happen in a jiffy. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. A lot of things are going to happen. And within this period of time, there will definitely be disruption within the industry. So as you cannot be updating a POS and the agent will be working with it or the merchant will be working with it. So this will cause a lot of challenges within the industry. So what we are saying as an association, as players in the industry, is that the central bank should look at this, bring out measures to phase the process, to make it happen in phases. For instance, say from the beginning, let so and so happen within 1 month, maybe the next 1 month again, so and so happen, so that within a period of 6 months to 1 year, many of the operators within the system, whether it's the MMOs, the PTSPs, the PSSBs, and the rest of them, would have complied fully with the policy to enable us get the optimum opportunity that this policy will give us, and also to enable us ensure that the intended purpose is not defeated by a wrong approach to ensuring compliance.
Have not recovered from the Naira redesign challenges. Definitely, a lot of people went through a lot, when we're redesigning the Naira. But, to make this process smooth, do you think maybe the central bank should make sure, get the banks to actually load the ATMs with cash and increase withdrawal limits? Do you think that would help?
No. It will. Okay, so.
Okay, hello, Lade.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Did you hear my question?
I did. I heard your question. You said, do I think that the central bank has to increase limits for ATMs?
Yeah, and load cash into the ATMs while this is going on.
Okay, so by implication, you are suggesting that the ATMs
Okay, all right. I think we're having some interactions there on your end, Dr. Oti. But definitely, it seems like something that would help us, at this time. Dr. Oti, I don't know if you're back now.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, fantastic. So you can answer the question.
Yes. I think you are implying that while the POS are undergoing the process of complying with the new policy on Geo-Tagging, that the ATMs can stand in as a stopgap, and then the central bank should increase the limit. Is that what you are trying to
increase
suggest?
Withdrawal limits, and let's be able to go to the ATMs and get cash.
Okay, while that may sound like a good idea, the ATMs cannot competently serve as an alternative to the POS. Remember, the ATMs are concentrated in most cities, city centers, banks, and the many urban and developed cities in the country. But the POS have found its way to very far located rural areas, rural communities, places that no bank branches have ever been before, no bank staff or bank official can ever get to. Okay, so when you do that, you are trying to use the ATMs to be an alternative to the POS, that idea will definitely not work. So the solution is not for the central bank to increase limit on the ATMs, no. The solution, like I have said ab initio, is that this should happen in phases, and the phases must be realistic. It cannot happen within a period of 60 days, and then by 31st October, the central bank will start enforcing compliance. No. Now, remember, let's even look at the idea of Geo-Tagging. While it is fine, there are some institutions or organizations that should be exempted from this policy. For instance, let's look at transport companies. Some transport companies use the POS as a means of receiving payment as they are moving from one location to the other. So as passengers are coming into maybe the bus or the vehicle, then they'll be paying with the POS. I remember the last time I was in Nairobi, Kenya, I paid with the POS, and the POS was the company was moving from one location, maybe from Nairobi to Mombasa, with one POS. But if you apply this to the same situation in the Nigerian CBN case, you know that it's not going to work, because as soon as the vehicle moves from this particular bus stop to another bus stop, definitely it's going to move away more than 10 meters radius of the registered location, and it's not going to work. So what will happen to businesses like transport companies, and there are so many other businesses like that? We have POS agents also that are roaming from one location to the other. Even though we try to discourage that, but there are some rural communities that have different market days, okay? And each market day, a particular POS agent will have to go to that particular market. There are a lot of rural communities. If you go to the southeast, south, and the southwest, there are some places where markets happen in alternate days. So you can't specifically register, except if you now, what it will now mean that you will now need various POS registered in maybe a K market, Nkwo market, different market days, or maybe Monday market, Tuesday market, and all that. So there will be a lot of issues around that.
All right, I guess that could, somewhat complement, if the city centers and those in the urban centers can at least, get to the ATMs and get cash. That will reduce pressure, I guess. But, you do have a point there. We still need to get to the underserved areas, and you guys are, helping bridge that gap. But beyond fraud prevention, how might this geo-tagging initiative, contribute to, broader financial inclusion and data-driven, policy making in Nigeria? If you can answer that quickly.
Okay, thank you. Like I told you earlier, we embrace this policy. It's a very good one. At least with the idea of geo-tagging, you can specifically pinpoint areas that are underserved, and then begin to make plan on how to reach those places. Because with geo-tagging, we will know the distribution and the concentration of payment devices like POS, and where the agents, you can find the agents. So when you now look at the geo-tag data that is telling us where agents are, where they're operating from another, you will now begin to notice that you have data-backed information in order to deploy more agents within the country. Then again, also, like I said, fraud will go down, because if criminals begin to notice that the police or law enforcement can competently and specifically pin them down to where they are using the POS to perpetrate fraud, then that will be a disincentive for them to be doing things like that. So it's a very good idea.
Thank you so much. Great having your perspective today. Dr. Obio Haoti is the Acting National President, Association of Mobile Money Bank Agents in Nigeria. Amban, thank you for coming on today, sir.
Thank you for having me. You're welcome.
All right, to other matters now. The 54th Annual General Meeting of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, that's the Apapa branch, has again put the spotlight on Nigeria's urgent need to diversify beyond oil. The gathering in Lagos brought together policymakers, regulators, and industry leaders to explore strategies for positioning manufacturing as a key foreign exchange earner. Representing the Central Bank Governor Leah Ashiro of the Trade and Exchange Department reaffirmed the bank's commitment to backing the real sector through targeted monetary policies and stronger collaboration with manufacturers. He challenged industry players to move from, in his words, rhetoric to results, from potential to performance. Take a listen.
Excellence, of your unwavering Globally, countries that have achieved sustained economic growth have done so by building strong manufacturing bases. From Southeast Asia to Latin America, manufacturing has been the engine of export-led growth. In Nigeria, however, the sector has contributed lowly to GDP and even smaller share to export earnings. This underperformance is not due to lack of potential, but rather due to structural constraints, policy misalignments, and infrastructure deficit. We must move from rhetoric to results, from potential to performance. Let us build a Nigeria that produces, exports, and thrives. A Nigeria where manufacturing is not just a sector, but a sustained strategy.
All right, let's get a check on the commodities market now. Joining me for this, we've seen a lot play out in the global commodities markets. Let's talk to Dr. Ifeoma Nwokolo, who's Assistant Vice President, Economic Research, Financial Derivatives Company. Good to have you on the show. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So we're seeing some price movement there with global commodities, and we're seeing wheat just saw its biggest drop in weeks. What's really behind this price fall?
Yeah, recently we've seen a drop in the price of wheat, and this is the largest decline in 3 weeks. We've seen that the average price of wheat right today is about $5 per bushel, and this is basically because we're in harvest season. So there is ample supply in the global markets. You see countries like Canada, Australia, Argentina, US. These are large producers of wheat, and this is the harvest season. That is why we are seeing the market flooded at this time. And this is a plus for Nigeria because wheat is an imported commodity for Nigeria. And in short time from now, we'll see the prices of commodities that are wheat-based begin to decline. Commodities like noodles, pasta, and the likes. But we are not going to see price shift immediately because there's always a lag between when there's a global decline in price and when it filters into our domestic commodities, because there is, when traders import these commodities, it takes 3 to 4 months before it gets to Nigeria. So that's the lag we are likely going to see. And also we are seeing that aside the imports favoring us, we are seeing that our exports too, prices of our export commodities are also rising. You take, for instance, the price of Brent, yes, increase, and we see the price of also cocoa has been on the increase. This is because there is a kind of weather condition in West African countries where cocoa is produced. And if I'm not mistaken, by this time last year, cocoa went up to almost $9,000 per barrel. I think we are tilting towards that. That's from the trend of what we are seeing, and this is a plus for Nigeria. Also, the price of Brent slipped this morning. Yesterday, there was an increase in price of Brent, but this morning it slipped because of some geopolitical tensions and because there's summer demand has begun to decline because very soon summer will be over. So we see that all this is featuring into the Naira. Naira has been quite stable, and yesterday traded flat at 15.43, and is a plus for us because we have a lot of buffer. All of these foreign earnings are buffers that is keeping the Naira stable at this point. Then one can be asking, is this actually stable? Is this actually sustainable? Well, projecting what the exchange rate will be is just like trying to catch a falling knife. Even though EIU has projected that the Naira will remain stable throughout 2025. And what we are seeing is there going to be a kind of pressure. Yes, there's going to be pressure because very soon students, international students will be paying school fees, the pressure in the market, and also traders also will demand for dollar to import for commodities for Christmas. So this is the pressure, but I think because of the influx of inflows that we have now, I think there's enough buffer. It will not really have any effect, but once there's a significant shift in interest rates, I think FPI is going to reverse. Of course, FPI we know is hot money. So it comes hot and it goes out very hot. So that is the only, but from the look of things, I don't think that we're going to have any significant decline in interest rates. If we are going to see any shift in interest rates, it would be maybe 25 basis points. That's only if our domestic imperative align with the CBN focus. Yeah.
All right. So, definitely we're seeing wheat down, cocoa rising, Brent down this morning after rising, yesterday. So I guess, the commodities are not looking so bad because these are part of our exports, at this time. But let's look at the liquidity in the money market. We've seen a surge there with repayments and, fact disbursement. What does that mean for, borrowing costs? And definitely we know borrowings also affects the Naira.
Yeah, so we talk about liquidity. We saw that there was excess liquidity in the market. And once there's excess liquidity in the market, you know what it means. It simply means that there is danger. Yes, even though it's going to bring down borrowing costs. But the problem is once this liquidity gets into the system, it causes inflationary pressure. And what should be done is to mop up the liquidity, is to either increase interest rates, of course, either the treasury bills are increased, or the CBN, of course, interest rates must be increased, or there's sales of OMO to mop up this liquidity. But if otherwise, this money can go into the system in two ways. It's either it's going to the system through the forex, whereby you see pressure in the forex market. And don't forget that this excess liquidity is due to FAC disbursement of about 2 trillion, yes, and also repayment of OMO. Yes, this brought about an increase of over 200% in liquidity that we have. So there is need for a mop-up of this liquidity. If it goes into the FX market, it means it will lead to demand spike. Of course, the trend has shown that once FAC payments is disbursed, there's always a demand spike in the forex market. Also, another way it can filter into the system is if it goes into the stock market. And once it goes to the stock market, we have what we call asset price inflation. And this can lead to bubbles in the So there is need for mop-up. And once there's mop-up, I think we are good to go. If otherwise, there may be renewed inflation. Let me put it that way. There may be renewed inflation.
And definitely, consumers are looking for a break at this point. We don't need any more, inflation. But we're seeing food prices like, tomatoes, pepper, and beans. They've been falling, as the harvest season, comes in. So I guess that's kind of a buffer, at this period. But does it continue, for the few that's going into September at this point?
Yeah, September is still part of harvest season. August, September, I think we'll see prices come down. We have seen price of tomato taper to 65,000 naira. 2 days ago, the prices was high, but today we saw it taper to 65,000 from 70,000. We saw pepper also decline to 70,000. We saw beans decline as well. So prices are declining, yes. We're in harvest season, as I said, like I said yesterday, and this will continue. But of course, once we enter the Ember months, it's a different story altogether. Yes, it's a different story, but people are beginning to shop for Christmas now. Yes, people can shop their tomatoes, blend it, and freeze it for Christmas. People are already purchasing rice for Christmas because once is Ember months approaching Christmas season, very close to Christmas, see that prices of commodities will increase because of increase in demand.
But hopefully we don't all go shopping for Christmas now. Won't that spike up prices? Maybe I should go do my shopping now for Christmas, right?
This is the best time to shop for Christmas because we are in harvest season, so prices are down. If you have where you can preserve it, it's the best time to shop for Christmas. Even clothing too. This is the best time to do that to avoid rush period. Because once there is rush, whether there is increase in price, of course, you know this part of the world, once there is rush, whether there is increase in price or not, traders will want to, because demand is high. So they definitely push up these prices because of festive.
All right, watch me go shopping for Christmas now. Thank you so much, Dr. Foma Wokolo, Assistant Vice President, Economic Research, Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Ladi.
All right, so we know the media plays a crucial role in strengthening bilateral relations by fostering narratives that transcend stereotypes. This was the thrust of the August edition of the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce monthly breakfast forum, honoring the media's crucial role in strengthening bilateral ties through the MTN Media Innovation Program. During the event, journalists engaged in meaningful discussions on how storytelling, responsible reporting, and cross-border collaboration can enhance the bond between Nigeria and South Africa. Take a listen.
Beyond storytelling, the August edition of the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce monthly breakfast forum explores the role of the media in driving cultural understanding and diplomacy between Nigeria and South Africa. The session features the MTN Media Innovation Program, MIP, as a case study.
The media plays a significant role in international relations in that it serves as a bridge between nations and cultures. But the media will not do all this if the practitioners are not well formed. Such exposure promotes cross-cultural understanding and minimizes the perpetuation of stereotypes and biases.
The panel session features journalists who participated in the program. They share insights into the experiences of cultural exchange and how the MIP is helping to move reportage beyond stereotypes to foster deeper ties, thereby nurturing deeper mutual understanding.
One had to be very careful, the sort of videos we are seeing, the sort of experiences you were reading on social media. And it is important, you know, with this MTN MIP program, because for many of the journalists who have not been there, now they get the opportunity to go there. And now they can better report about what's going on in South Africa.
The forum then seamlessly transitioned into a special media parley with the unveiling of a commemorative logo in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce.
Having come this far, having laid the foundation, we are looking up to a very, very bright future, a future that is galvanized by our coming together, the two countries, the key countries in the continent.
Other members of the Chamber's leadership also reflect on the organization's impact over the years.
There's better understanding between people in both countries, and with this understanding, the stereotype classification of Nigerians as people dealing in drugs, being involved in illegal activities, I think that has been debunked. We now know that you have a lot of Nigerians who are professors in South Africa, who are doctors, who are lawyers, who are people engaged in gainful employment in South Africa.
At the end of the day, we do want to work together. A lot of Nigerians working in South Africa, a lot of South Africans working here, a higher level of relating to Africa as a continent and stop separating and identifying individual countries the way we do.
During the August Breakfast Forum, the Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce reaffirmed a strong partnership with MTN Nigeria, emphasizing their shared commitment to enhancing regional integration and economic development across Africa.
All right, let's get a check on what's playing out in the global economy. And definitely Wall Street was waiting for NVIDIA earnings yesterday. Investors there were bracing, and we finally, got it. It was better than expected. And we see sales growth that was up. Revenue, that rose there, 46.7 billion. That's for the second quarter. That was up 6% quarter-on-quarter and 56% on a year-on-year basis. Then we see data center revenue, that was at $41.1 billion, up 5%. That's a quarter-on-quarter, and a beat there of 56%. That's on the year-on-year. And the gaming revenue, $4.3 billion, up 14%. A bigger move up there from the gaming revenue. That's for the chip maker, up 49%. Year-on-year. So quite impressive, and definitely we know investors did react big to that news. But let's get a check on what's playing out right there in the UK and what the sentiment is to results. We have Juliana Lainka there joining us, our London Bureau Chief. Great to have you on the show, Juliana.
Good morning, Laddie.
Yeah, Wall Street was bracing for NVIDIA's earnings there. So was there any reaction in the UK to this result?
Well, certainly, because this is a global story, isn't it? This is not just a story of the US. This is a story of the AI evolution, which is clearly being led by NVIDIA under the guidance of its pretty flamboyant CEO, Jensen Huang. And look, there were some mind-boggling figures reported overnight on Wall Street, which you quite rightly just had up on your screen there. We got Q2 earnings, $40 billion in earnings. This is up 56% year on year. This is for the second quarter. And they also forecast $54 billion in the third quarter. Now, yesterday's results made NVIDIA the world's most valuable company. I believe they're worth over $4 trillion US, which is like $1,000 billion. Just to put that into perspective, this is, I believe, sort of twice the value of the entire market size of the FTSE 100, 25% bigger than the entire UK economy. So yes, it's all mind-boggling, all very much remarkable, but there is a big story here, which is why, surprise, surprise, NVIDIA's share price fell down. I think there are short-term issues. There are also long-term issues. In the short term, of course, the big issue is China. In the results yesterday, NVIDIA said they were unable to ship to China. Remember, Laddie, a couple of weeks ago, NVIDIA were kind of forced to strike a deal with the US president, whereby 15% of revenues on a sort of secondary value chip going to China would come to the US government. So there are issues around that. But also in terms of the long term, there are some concerns about, the leverage Jensen Huang, the CEO, has over NVIDIA. At the moment, he is probably the most sought-after CEO in the world. If anything happens to him, what happens to this revolution? They also, lots of investors are asking this morning as well, is this a flash in the pan, NVIDIA? Or is this really the reinvention of the wheel? Is this finding electricity, building the US rail system? I'm not sure investors are sure yet where this is going, but those numbers are mind-blowing again, Laddie.
Yeah, definitely. I guess at this point, some investors need to read between the lines to make that decision. But we got some data in the UK, latest data from the Confederation of British Industry, that's CBI, and that's showing that retail sales, that fell for the 11th consecutive month in August. How's that being, digested over there?
Yeah, that's right. Basically, people are not shopping. People are not shopping as much as they used to, and that's because the cost of living is still biting. We have had this data today from the Confederation of British Industry saying that sales, once again, retail sales fell again in August. This is the 11th month in a row, as you said. We were actually supposed to get this data on Friday, so about 6 days ago. It's late because we're having concerns about the modelling here. But this data is the longest downturn that we've seen in over a decade. Another huge headache for the already bruised Chancellor of the Exchequer. Now, the problem is basically weak consumer confidence. Again, people are not feeling confident enough to be able to fill their fridge, fuel the car, and have a nice outfit on the weekend. So people are cutting back on discretionary spending costs. And this is obviously affecting businesses. And we've seen shares in high street names like Primark owner, Associated British Foods, and Marks and Spencer taking a hit. There is a glimmer of hope. We know kids are going back to school. Parents are going to have to spend their money. I'm sure you've had to get some more uniform as well, Laddie. So we're just hoping that perhaps, you know, that boom, back to school boom will help with the figures, but they're not looking great. Right.
At this point, waiting for the consumer to get some confidence in different parts of the world. But let's look at the auto industry now. See, Ford today, they've become the first manufacturer to be awarded the UK's full electric car grant of about £3,750. Tell us about this.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting story. We know that electric vehicle usage in Europe has plummeted sharply. In fact, lots of big manufacturers, car producers, have already reeled back on some earlier pledges to adopt EV. But alas, you know, the government are trying their best. So they did have this grant available, and Ford, as you said, have become the first manufacturer to secure the government's full electric car grant. It is about £3,750. That's probably about 8 million naira, I'm not sure. Now, this is for their Puma Gen E and the E Torino courier cars, both produced in Europe, and they qualify under these strict sustainability rules. Basically, what this means is that for the average family, the starting price of Britain's best-selling car, which is a Puma, falls below £27,000. Which is seen as a good thing, because one of the issues we've had with electric cars is that they're too expensive. So with this grant, it makes it much cheaper for the manufacturer, and therefore the cost to the consumer is much lower.
Yeah, that's about 6 million naira. Not bad, you know, at all. But thank you so much, Juliana, for breaking what's playing out in the UK down for us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laddie.
Enjoy the day. All right, let's look at all the stories. Now, Swedish consumer confidence increased to 91.1 points in August from marginally revised 90.8 points in July, according to data released today by the National Institute of Economic Research. The overall economic sentiment indicator, which includes measurements from industry, construction, retail sectors, in addition to consumer confidence, showed a more substantial improvement, rising to 96.0 points in August from 94.3 points in July. And Toyota Motor on Thursday, that's today, reported higher global sales in July, lifted by resilient overseas demand, even as deliveries in its home market slowed. The world's top-selling automaker said the group worldwide sales, including luxury brands like Lexus, rose 899,000 vehicles in July, rising for the 7th straight month. That was up 4.8% from a year earlier, supported by stronger shipments to North America and Europe. But domestic sales in Japan, that fell 0.9% to about 118,000 units as demand softened following earlier gains, while North American sales climbed 4.2% to 250,000 units. Europe posted a 6.5% rise to nearly 95,000 vehicles. All right, the markets are still trading on right now in Lagos, Nigeria. Definitely will give you intraday analysis on Business Incorporated by 1:30 on who's making money and who's not. Thank you for watching Business Morning today. I'm Laddie Williams. Bye for now.